Manx Radio Sport.
Good evening, welcome back to Friday Sport Preview on Manx Radio. Rob Pritchard here with you until 6pm to take a look at the sporting action and stories on the Isle of Man this weekend and elsewhere. So, coming up tonight, FC Isle of Man face their penultimate pre-season test tonight as they host three English non-league sides at the Bowl this weekend. One of the longest established cycling races on Ireland returns this Sunday, as does a brand new event on the Isle of Man's triathlon calendar in Ramsey. We take a look back on the 2024 Isle of Man Golf Championships and what's to come for the Ireland national side next month, and are we ready to host the 2029 Ireland Games? Well, that is all to come this evening. A very warm welcome to you and Friday Sport Preview here on Manx Radio. Rob Pritchard and my assorted guests throughout this week, taking a look at the sporting action taking place across Saturday, Sunday and beyond, both here on Manx shores and further afield as well. And we're going to start very firmly on Manx shores, in fact, because a big weekend of footballing action gets underway tonight with the FC Isle of Man Summer Festival of Football taking place at the Bowl in Douglas from tonight until Sunday afternoon. The Ravens are welcoming National League North sides Chester and Radcliffe, as well as Northern Premier League outfit Lancaster City for a series of pre-season friendlies over the next 3 days. Well, FC Isle of Man face Chester in tonight's opening match at 7pm, and I caught up with Ravens boss Paul Jones to get his thoughts on the game and this inaugural tournament.
A really difficult one. Maybe people weren't aware, but we played Brackley from the same league a couple of weeks ago and did it very well against them. But Chester are further along in their pre-season. They played some more, they've actually played pre-season games, whereas Brackley was our first pre-season game. So for them as well as us. And, so Chester are going to be starting to build towards their start to their season with a view, I'm sure, to try and get out of that division and get into the National League. So they're going to be right at it, I'm sure. And, the first game of the tournament, they won't have too many weary legs. And I'm sure they're going to give us a really difficult challenge. And we will do well to stay in the game. And we might have to suffer a little bit out of possession, but that's okay. That's good for us. And when we have the ball, we need to look after it. But it's going to be very difficult.
Stranger over the last couple of pre-seasons to National League opposition. You've mentioned Brackley Town, who you also faced in pre-season last season, Altrincham previously as well. Yeah. What are the big lessons you've learned as a club, both as players and as coaching staff, from playing this sort of opposition over the last couple of seasons?
It's just the margins are smaller, and you say that in every sport, the higher the level you go, then it might be okay to be stood kind of 2 yards out of position at our level, but if you do that against higher level opposition, you'll get found out. So the margins of error become smaller, which really makes people focus and concentrate and, get their distances right, getting their decision making right. It's usually a more intense game in terms of the tempo or the speed at which they need to make decisions or action things. And that really puts their kind of decision making and clarity and everything under quite a lot of pressure. So, from a technical point of view, more often than not, our players are good enough to play at higher levels. It's the decision making when the game is quicker and other players around them are moving at a pace and the ball's rolling a bit faster and things are happening a touch quicker than they would do otherwise. So everything's just done faster, and that really does challenge our players in terms of their understanding of what we're asking them to do, but also to make sure that they're fully focused and fully concentrated, and that's usually the difference.
8 days until the new NWCFL Premier Division season gets underway with a home tie against Chadderton on the 27th. So how do you go about balancing now at this critical stage between making sure players are getting enough match minutes under their belt, but also trying to establish the team and the system you want for next weekend?
Yeah, it's a important balance. The club was set up to give players opportunities to play at a higher level, and the fact we've got two National League North teams over, is an opportunity to expose players to a higher level of football. But as you say, it's really important that we start to find connections and rhythm and a settled group in order to then go into the game against Chadderton on the 27th with some sort of consistency and connections in place. So we will try and keep some of that over the two games. There's not going to be masses and masses of changes for the sake of it. It's about preparing really for the 27th. That's our priority. And if we can get a number of players minutes as we do that, then that would be fantastic. But it really is about cementing how we're trying to play and identifying the best group possible to take us into that game on Saturday. And we've kind of got a bit of an idea over the last 4 or 5 weeks of training. Tonight's game and Sunday's game gives us an opportunity to try a few different combinations out potentially, or just to look at things a little bit differently, but very much with the eye of making sure we've got a settled kind of 11 or 16 for the game against Chatterton.
And finally, just looking at this summer festival of football in general, a new concept in pre-season really, and not just a chance for supporters to come and watch FC Isle of Man, but also see some other good teams for the English non-league system with the likes of Chester, Radcliffe and also Lancaster City as well. So what do you think this says about FC Isle of Man, that these other teams higher in the pyramid in the non-league system at the moment are looking at FC Isle of Man thinking this is a worthwhile test for us?
It's important, I think we gain credibility the longer we're in the pyramid and the better that we do. People see we're attempting to do things in the right way. I think we've got a relatively good reputation within non-league football in the Northwest in terms of how we conduct ourselves, and we've wanted to put something like this on since the club started. Hopefully this is the beginning of something that at least stays at 4 teams and maybe gets a little bit bigger.
Manx Radio Sport.
4 games in 3 days as part of the Summer Festival of Football by FC Isle of Man. Details of those over at the Manx Radio Sports Hub at manxradio.com. Well, there's plenty of action on our TV screens when it comes to cycling at the moment with the closing stages of this year's Tour de France. Meanwhile, locally, one of the longest established cycling races on Ireland returns this weekend. The 2024 edition of the Fred Kelly Memorial Road Race takes place from Sunday morning, and what's more, the race has undergone some significant changes over the years, with 2024 no exception, and there are hopes this makes the event more accessible and potentially more entertaining. As Niall Quiggin, Director and Treasurer of the event's organisers, Manx Viking Wheelers Club, explains.
Talking to some of the older members of the club, it used to go here, there and everywhere, all over the islands, but now it's been simplified to take on a short circuit in the north of the islands, which is really good for spectators and it's flat, so it's easy for newbies to jump into. And then it still finishes up the Faulty Will Plantation Road, just outside Sulby Reservoir, so it's a hilltop finish, which is a bit different for races we do on the islands.
Does this fit in, do you think, with the idea of, particularly with the rejig of the spring and summer series, to make it more accessible?
Yeah, so this has been a constantly changing course, this race. This year's course is actually shorter again than what we've used in previous years. It only takes on a small loop outside Derby, and it provides opportunities for stronger riders to show what they can do, but at the same time there's no massive hill where people are going to get dropped. The important thing to remember is that these Sunday road races, we still want our top guys to be able to show what they're all about and put the training they've been putting into work. So finishing with a hill is a way they can do that, but in the same sense they're not going to the very top of the bungalow, they're just finishing outside Sulby Reservoir. So despite that being a place where, the cream rise to the top, everyone can get up there. It's still only a 3 or 4 minute climb.
People within the cycling community here will know it has been around for a long time. What has made it such a long established and well-attended race, do you think, on the calendar?
I mean, just speaking to some of the older members, like the route was crazy in the past. It would start, I believe, at the grandstand and work its way down south and then up north and here, there and everywhere. So obviously now with the way the roads are and how busy they are and the amount of junctions, it's just not possible for us to do that. So we're trying to emulate what's been done in the past and, still have that feature, which is the hilltop finish, which doesn't feature in any of the rest of our racing. And I think a lot of people look forward to that. I know I do. The hilltop finish is definitely something completely different in cycling. It's not like a bunch sprint. It's not like a breakaway or anything like that. It's something where it's just mano a mano who can do the most power. And yeah, it's only 4 or 5 minute effort, so it's not going to take anyone too far out the back.
You've already half answered my next question there. The fact that it's such a different profile, it's a climb finish rather than a sprint that many people will see on the likes of TV and whatnot. What kind of traits do you have to have as a rider to really excel on a climb finish rather than, say, a bunch sprint?
Yeah, so I mean, it's going to suit the guys that the lighter guys or the guys that are more explosive. In the past, the race went all the way up to the bungalow, like I say, which definitely suited your super lightweight riders and your Manx pros that at home will no doubt take the win up there. But now I think with that finish at Sulby Reservoir, it's kind of a case of, a bigger rider, if they can get a big enough gap before the climb, they could have a chance of winning it. But at the same time, if a bigger rider goes toe-to-toe with a 50-kilo junior going up there, they're going to find it hard. So, yeah, it's about where you put yourself at the start of the climb relative to other riders and your own abilities. So, yeah, it adds a whole other element to the typical bunch sprints that we have. But at the same time, you've got to make it to the bottom of the climb. So, dealing with our Manx roads and winds and all the rest of it is a whole other factor. But, yeah, the hilltop finish is something completely different.
And in terms of who's taking part this year, who are some of the names that we could potentially look out for that could be competing at the front?
Seen a few entries coming already from some of our top guys. So Tyler Hannay, who rides for St. Piran in the UK and in Europe this season. We're expecting him to be riding on Sunday. And then also CC Isle of Man riders, Mark Hosthouse and Michael Fade. And then, the Islands junior team's utmost Mezzo squad. They've just come back from the Junior Tour of Ireland. So, they've got 6 days of hard racing in their legs already. And I'm sure they want to show what they're all about with the season being right in the middle of the season. Yeah, I'm hoping to go for the win as well, but we'll see how that plays out as well.
It's not just who's the biggest, who's the most powerful in one particular straight. It's the fact that there are so many different aspects to it that could see both senior and junior riders in contention. Is that what makes it one of the more exciting races, do you think?
Yeah, when the race starts off, we'll all be put in groups of ability. So you'll see like the junior team and some strong youth riders as well, mixed in with senior riders who race for the CCL Man squad and then also teams like St. Piran. Maybe we might see Max Walker if he's on land as well, have a crack. And if he does, then it might be difficult for anyone else the way he's going. But no, it's just a real opportunity to mix it with all different sorts of riders. And to be honest, the spring series and the summer series, they've given the riders opportunity to show how they are on flat terrain, both in time trials and road races. Having a feature like this makes riders think differently as to how they approach the race and where they're going to leave themselves going into the finish. So it could be for the big boys, it could be for the small boys, but I think at the end of the day, it's going to be the smart rider who's going to win this race.
Manx Radio Sport.
Niall Quiggin of the Manx Viking Wheelers Club there. Well, elsewhere in the north of the island this weekend, a brand new event on the island's triathlon calendar is set to take place. The 1886 Super Sprint Triathlon Relay is a new concept locally and will be held on Sunday in and around Morag Park in Ramsey. Well, not too long ago, we heard from the Manx Tri Club, who explained they're keen to see more people, particularly females, taking up triathlon. So how can events like this new relay help to achieve that? Well, Clara Isaac took up triathlon just this season. She explains what this new event is all about and why she got into the sport in the first place.
So a super sprint relay is, a great introduction to triathlon. It's a little bit shorter than your likes of a sprint triathlon, which we had in May. And what that entails is a 400-metre swim in the Morag Lake, a 6.6 kilometre bike up and down the promenade, and then a 2.2 kilometre run around the Morag Park, so around outside the lake. So it's a really great introduction to triathlon. It's a little bit shorter and also it's just so much fun. You're between 3 team members, you're passing on for each team member to do all 3 disciplines. It's all good fun. It's, anyone and everyone can get involved. And the Morag's nice and shallow, so everyone can have a little go at swimming in there. And it's the first one we've done here. So there's lots of sprints that you'll see now across the UK. You might have watched a few on TV. And now we're bringing them to the Isle of Man.
One thing you pointed out there is the idea of making it accessible for more people to get involved. Because some people might look at it and think, I might fancy the idea of triathlon, but they might be a little bit intimidated thinking, I've got to be a phenomenal athlete to do a triathlon already. It can be very demanding. So how important is it that people can feel welcomed and have a nice introduction into the sport?
This is my first season in triathlon, and definitely what encouraged me to get involved was how kind of welcoming the Manx Tri Club is. The Isle of Man triathlon community is just like no other sporting community. They are so welcoming. There are people of all abilities. You don't have to be this phenomenal athlete. You can be anything from just starting out, just having fun. And, we do have some incredible triathletes here on the Isle of Man and everything in between. So the Super Sprint, I would say, is a really great introduction because everything's just a little bit shorter and it is more lighthearted. You get involved with a team, you're there with your friends, or it's a brilliant event for your first try, and you don't have to be exceptional. Come up, have a laugh. We've spoken to so many people that this is their first go, and I'd encourage anyone and everyone to get involved in this really welcoming, lovely, friendly community.
And coming back to the point you made that this is your first year effectively in the triathlon community on the Isle of Man, what drew you to it most of all?
So I love the challenge. I was drawn to it because my husband does triathlon and I've helped support, and I love watching it. I love any sport, so I've watched him do this for years, and then I just really wanted to have a go. It's a challenge, isn't it? It's something completely different. Swimming is something that I hadn't really ever done much of, so taking on that new step and trying a different sport and also doing it somewhere where it's easy, it's friendly. People are always there to help. You're not judged. You don't have to be this like super professional. And I'm so grateful that I've got involved in it and had a great year so far, and looking forward to the events ahead.
And the fact that this event coming up this weekend is not an individual triathlon, a standard one as it were, it is a team event as well. Do you think that is quite a good way for those who are just coming into it to get a feel of it, but also around people who will be supporting them throughout as well?
Oh yeah, it's going to be such good fun because you'll have your pals there waiting for you to get out and all shouting for you. And yeah, you're not an individual, so you're not just stepping into it alone, but also in all of the other events we do throughout the year, we do a team as well, where someone can do a bike, someone can do the run, someone can just do the swim. And I do think it's that great step in the door to having a go, someone almost holding your hand to just have a little go. You're not going to make a fool out of yourself. There's nothing like that, not with Manx Tri Club. And just give you that little bit of confidence. And also, it's lighthearted. You don't need to take it seriously.
And with this event and other triathlon events as well, they are mixed events largely as well. So it's not, you do have the men's and female honours in certain races and whatnot, but it is a largely mixed. And do you think that helps with, I suppose, kind of the unity of the triathlon community on the Isle of Man throughout each season?
Oh yeah, we have a mix of, male and female, and all the teams are mixed as well. And yeah, there's definitely a unity with triathlon. And I think also because it is a challenge, everyone's in it, they understand what it is to get involved in it, how it is to take on that challenge. And everyone's really supportive, no matter how you do, where you come, whether you're first, last, in between. Everyone's just really supportive, and they're happy to see you finish and get through it. So yeah, I think, we're, as I said, probably a good split of both male and female. But as always with sports like this, we'd love to get more females involved in triathlon. And we're seeing that over the recent years.
Manx Radio Sport.
Clara Isaac of the Manx Tri Club there. Well, moving on, and since our last programme, one of the major events in Manx golf has taken place with the 2024 Isle of Man Golf Championships over the last week at Mount Murray Golf Club. To hear how things unfolded, I caught up with Daryl Callister of the Isle of Man men's national team, who's now also confirmed who'll represent the Manx flag at the prestigious England County Championships next month.
Another busy week as always. We had the qualification on the Saturday, which drops it down to the 16 for the men, the 4 for the women. That then ran through in the knockout stages. A bit of a delay because the usual Manhattan's cloak came over Mount Murray. So we had the first round was split over 2 days. So went into the Wednesday, whittled down to moving through on the men's to all the way through to the semis. We had a semi-final of Rob Noon versus Peter Glover, which is a rematch of last year. And then in the other semi-final, we had Liam Cowan against Mark Sutton. It was Liam Cowan who won that match on the last hole, and Rob Noon won his match, taking it through to a final of Liam Cowan versus Rob Noon. On the women's side, we had Diane Neal taking on Shirley, getting through to a final again. She won back in 2018 against Emma Noon, I believe first-time finalist for her. So yeah, we had the potential of a brother and sister winning the championships at the same time, and that did happen. So Rob Noon went through to win his 3rd consecutive championships. I believe a feat only done by 2 other people in the Isle of Man. That's what I believe. So yeah, a massive congratulations. And then Emma Noon winning her first one.
And just on those points, as you mentioned, Robert Noon there is his 3rd successive title. What's been the key, do you think, to his dominance in recent years in the men's side of things?
Yeah, I think he's really got into a good run on the match play side. He's done the job he's got to do to get through. And then, yeah, he's just got his matches won. And that's the thing, real good momentum with him. Not just night to night, but year to year, as it seems. So that's 12 consecutive matches he's won now in the Island Championships. You take it 4 each year. So, yeah, it's a very, very impressive feat.
And, of course, Emma, at just the age of just turned 21, I understand, as well, winning the women's title as well. Already had a number of junior titles under her belt as well, but beating the defending champion Kaylee Dawson, who was targeting a 3rd straight title along the way, and then beating Shirley Price in the final. That shows some serious ability on Emma Noon's side of things, doesn't it?
It does, yeah, it does. I guess there's jealousy in the family. She didn't want Rob getting all the glory, so that added motivation to step in there and get a title herself. So yeah, very well done to Emma. I'm delighted for it. So yeah, we're really, really stepping up on that side.
That's this year's Isle of Man Golf Championships, which we had in the last week. Looking ahead now some big decisions having to be made going forward, because their squad has been selected for the Isle of Man to compete in the county championships coming up. Big event on the calendar. So what can you tell us about that?
Yeah, so the Isle of Man will be competing in the annual Northern Counties Championship. So all the counties of the North, Cheshire, Cumbria, Lancashire, Northumberland, Durham, and the Isle of Man competing at Ulverston Golf Club on the 7th of August. Really difficult format, 6-man team, 36 holes, all scores to count. So there's no hiding in this format. It is, you've got to be on it. Consistency is the key. Nice, solid golfing performance across the whole day, really. So can be quite a pressure-packed environment. So selecting a team was selected after the finale of the Island Championships on Sunday, and Rob Noon's unavailable to play. So the 6-man team consisting of myself as playing captain, Liam Cowan and Chris Neen, Jamie O'Neill, Joe Rayside, and Mark Sutton, who's back into the team after a bit of an absence out. But he's been playing great consistent golf this year, which is exactly what we're looking for, sort of top fiving in all of the 36-hole events really on the Isle of Man that we've had this year. Joe Rayside's been showing some good form both on and off the island. He went and competed away in Yorkshire. Chris Dean has been solid as ever again once returning. He's been back into golf, really committed the last few years since having to go at cycling. Jamie O'Neill winning the stroke play championship at a score of 7 under par, so he's really showed his form in those sort of longer formatted golf competitions. So it'd be great to have Jamie. And lastly, losing finalist Liam Cowan again is probably played more than anyone else in the squad this year, returning that commitment he had in football of competing both for St Mary's and the Isle of Man, and really turning that to golf. And he's shown his dedication and consistency is coming out of it. He's a really solid golfer.
In the interim leading up to it, what are the preparations for the team?
We're also going a little earlier, playing in a 36-hole tournament in Carlisle on Sunday the 4th of August. That's a bit of a warm-up, if nothing else, just to get ourselves sharp into that sort of 36-hole competitive mode, and a couple of days of preparation before the big one on the 7th of August.
Manx Radio Sport.
And finally tonight, last weekend the Isle of Man was confirmed as the host of the 2029 International Island Games. Well, whilst there'll be a great deal of excitement in the lead up over the next 5 years, it's already recognised there's plenty of work to do behind the scenes to make sure the island is ready to welcome this major sporting occasion. So what's the scale of the job to get ready for 2029? How will those in charge make sure it has a lasting benefit? Well, to find out, I spoke this week with Minister for Education, Sport and Culture, Daphne Caine.
Obviously, there is going to be an organising committee put together, and that involves the leads for each of the 14 sports that will be hosted for the 2029 Games. But there's also a level of investment that the government has pledged in terms of the plans to refurbish the athletics track, the grandstand and the bowl synthetic surface. So, those facilities are coming to the end of their life and in need of refurbishment. But having them completed in time for the 2029 Games, it'll not only showcase the island's sports facilities and infrastructure across the world, but hopefully also provide a legacy for the next generation of children and young people to enjoy sport and, who knows, maybe go on to have international careers in those various sports.
And with regards to those works that have been identified, how much are they expected to cost, and how long do you expect these works to take at the moment?
Well, the approved funding, I think, is around £1.9 million. But actually, that's a real investment, not only for the Games, but for all the sporting communities of the Isle of Man. And actually, it's anticipated that the Games themselves, with 4,000 probably going to travel here, they're expected to produce an economic benefit well in excess of any investment that is more in the region of £3.5 million. And
not just the sporting facilities as well, there's everything else that comes with it, the island's infrastructure on the roads in terms of transport and accommodation. Are you confident the Isle of Man has that in place?
Absolutely. And obviously I was involved in a small way I was in the tourism department, but obviously co-opted into organising on the media side. But I remember the logistics over the bus network that was put in place specifically for the Games competitors. And also actually there were hundreds of local volunteers, and it's a wonderful opportunity, for the Isle of Man to deliver the absolute tip-top event. It's a wonderful opportunity for people across the island, both sporting, present and retired members of the sporting community, or wider, any of those who want to be involved, to host teams, to coordinate them, to facilitate trips, and be generally supportive of the games and the various logistics that need to be worked out. But no, I remember it well from 2001, and I imagine it's going to be bigger and better than ever in 2029.
Now, obviously, 14 sports will be on offer, as is usually the case with the Island Games, and that means of the 18 sports available, each time there will be 4 sports that are disappointed, effectively, and that is the case for the likes of judo, bowls, sailing, and shooting when it comes to the 2029 Island Games. The decision for omission of those has not necessarily gone down well with everyone. Shooting, on their side of things, they're of the belief that the reasons given by DESC for not selecting the sport, they don't believe they made sense. So what would you say to the likes of the Shooting Federation and other sports that have been left out of the 2029 Games?
I am really sorry that anyone is left disappointed, but obviously the Isle of Man is in a really fortunate position that, generations have enjoyed and had investment into the dozens of sporting disciplines on the Isle of Man. And we have the infrastructure and expertise from those sports governing bodies and the clubs to host all 18 of the recognised sports. But the Isle of Man was very clear in setting the selection criteria, which was done by the bid committee. There was an organising committee who had very clear criteria against which the sports were selected, and that included sports which have high numbers of female participants, those that facilitate and deliver a high quality spectator experience, ones that could be predominantly facilitated in the east of the island, and ensuring a minimal journey time that's between the accommodation and competition venues, therefore reducing any environmental impact, but also the events and competitions that are low cost to deliver. The bid committee's criteria and the way they set out to organise and select the various sports has been praised by the International Island Games. So I think perhaps other islands will use that in future as a basis for selecting theirs. But obviously, when there's 18 to select from and only 14 can be put on, there will always be some who are disappointed, and I'm sorry about that, but perhaps they will have their day in another sport in future.
Minister for Education, Sport and Culture, Daphne Caine there. Well, that's all we have time for this evening. Many thanks to my guests this week, Paul Jones, Niall Quiggin, Clara Isaac, Daryl Callister and Daphne Caine. Have yourself a wonderful Friday evening and a wonderful weekend as well. But from us, until next time, it is bye for now.